back in the 1920s, race was controversial in terms of blacks and whites. Blacks didn't have an identity, and in this novel, Invisible Man, written by Ralph Ellison, the narrator doesn't have any identity. He's known simply as the narrator. You will be informed about racial constructs in today's society.
The first example of how the themes of identity and invisibility are developed is the narrator's lack of a name. A person's name is one of the most basic things to know about anyone, but in the story, the narrator never reveals his name. So as a result, the narrator remains throughout the book more as a voice rather than a tangible character. His identity is invisible to others, because as he says, they refuse to see him for the person he is, and in this way they are blind. For the narrator, part of being invisible means that he can take on other names. To begin with, the narrator starts off with a name which is not revealed to the readers, and then when he joins the Brotherhood, he is given another name which is still not known. And even after that, narrator is mistaken later for a guy named Reinhardt. And so to the narrator, names are something dispensable and fickle. The second example is the Battle Royale. The narrator, at the beginning of the story, is invited to make a speech for the white men of the town. The narrator, though, is thrown into the Battle Royale, where young black men fight for the entertainment of the whites. And even after that, the black youths are tricked into scrambling for gold coins on an electrified rug. The Battle Royale was the narrator's first real experience with racism. It is because of the identity and race of the narrator and the other black youths that they were treated that way.
Another example is electricity shock by the racist doctors. We read that the narrator is mistreated in the hospital after the paint factory explosion.
The narrator, though, experiences racism from the doctors there. While being given electroshock therapy, the doctors give him racist slander.
He is trivialized and made fun of. Instead of being taken seriously, he is made a joke. They care more about his race and stereotypes rather than the health of the patient himself. And because he is in pain and the doctors do not seem to care, the narrator becomes angry and bewildered.
Look, he's dancing.
No, really.
They really do have rhythm, don't they? Get hot, boy! Get hot!
The invisibility of the narrator is also shown after the electroshock therapy, when the doctors attempt to ask him questions. The narrator experiences temporary amnesia, loses ability to speak. Because of this, he literally loses his own identity. He can't remember his own name. Ralph Ellison, in his book Invisible Man, similar to the last two books we read, uses the frame narrative style of a narrator recounting past events. The two important roles of the protagonist are one as a naive character and the other as a wise narrator. For example, in chapter 1, the narrator doesn't question the antics of the rich white men during the Battle Royale, which Ellison does on purpose to show the readers the character's blindness. So while the importance of the protagonist as a naive character is to show the hardships he has experienced, the importance of the protagonist as a narrator is to show the readers the end result of realizing his own individuality because of his experiences. Ellison, through this narrative, brings the readers into the experiences of African Americans during this time period and their struggles for individuality.
Back in that time, African Americans were treated as if they didn't have any rights, like mostly just like small things such as pushing them out of the way for a fountain.
Back then, the main problems were racism, segregation, and civil rights. People were separated by color in buses, restaurants, and even water fountains.
In today's time, it's treated exactly the same, on a cruel level.
Nowadays, people claim that the main problems are police brutality and racism in law enforcement, which is what gave rise to the Black Lives Matter movement.
The topic of Black Lives Matter, what it is that in today's society, a lot of African Americans believe that there's many killings of African Americans by cops in which that they are killed for no apparent reason, thus causing them to believe that they also matter too, in the sense that they're just like everyone else, we're all human. And They're just like Invisible Man. In saying that Black Lives Matter, they're saying that we matter too, we have an identity, we're not just invisible like everyone else. What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything.
What do you mean?
I'm not.
You look pretty suspicious. What are you doing?
Not doing.
Get on the ground.
Oh,
I'm on your back. You're arrested.
not doing anything.
That's a lie.
I can't.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Society has a large influence on race. Some say that race is merely a product of society and that society has created divisions which group people into categories. So often, people define their identity with their race. As the story progresses in the book, the narrator learns of being seen not by the person, but by race. When he becomes part of the Brotherhood, for example, he finds out later that they chose him partly because he was black. Roz the Exhorter and his movement could be compared to the movement of Black Lives Matter. Roz is a black nationalist who believes that he can end prejudice and oppression by violently overthrowing white supremacy. Black Lives Matter, like Roz, but unlike the Brotherhood, fights for its cause through less peaceful means, like protests and disruptions. But unlike the Brotherhood and Roz's movement, Black Lives Matter has no main spokesperson. Being the spokesperson of a minority group can be very difficult. Because the individual is a spokesperson for a minority group, then the group doesn't have much ground to begin with. So it's very difficult for that spokesperson or leader to give the group a louder voice to be heard. As a result, the spokesperson can be criticized for trying to advocate a cause which seems unimportant. So in conclusion,